Hey, everyone. Anthony Fantano, the internet's most disgusting looking hipster here. The internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time to talk about an album that I have a soft spot for in my heart. It's near and dear to my heart. It's Kid Cudi's Speeding Bullet to Heaven. On my main channel, not joking now, my original review for the album in 2015 was easily one of my most negative reviews ever. When it comes to negative reviews on my channel, in the minds of my viewers who have been watching my content for a long time, not much beats out Kid Cudi's Speeding Bullet to Heaven. And look, I'm not alone in my feelings on this. I mean, this record is hated across the internet. It did not land well at the time that it came out, but I think it's very interesting that Kid Cudi and some of his fans are coming through, responding in retrospect, saying the album is overhated, saying what the record means to them. Kid Cudi responding to a fan here on Twitter, saying that they never get sick of the album. It's their monthly Speeding Bullet to Heaven banger. And Cudi responds saying, yeah, the album everyone hates. I imagine he means everyone hates. This makes me so happy. Thank you for repping Speeding Bullet to Heaven. He goes on because he's sort of continuing to build off of this point that he's making, and other people reacting to his thoughts on the album, offering their thoughts on the album. Cudi also says, I was dealing with some real shit during that album. One of my darker than Man on the Moon 2, I would say. I mean, even as someone who doesn't like Speeding Bullet to Heaven, I would agree with that. I just wanted to scream and yell and make angry songs. It was the only way I could express how I was feeling at that time. Moving forward. Also, somebody said the Beavis and Butthead skits are gold. I would greatly disagree, but still. Kid Cudi says, yes, shout out to the fucking legend Mike Judge for killing it on the skits. I mean, Mike Judge did do his Beavis and Butthead thing as well as I think he would do it when asked to do it. Still not crazy about their incorporation. It's still one of my least favorite things about the album, but I'm glad that Cudi has strong, passionate feelings about them still to this day. And Cudi goes on, I think also kind of building off of these previous points. As an artist, it's our job to explore and try new things. A lot of cats don't take risks. They just make the same old thing over and over. All of my albums were different from each other. That's always been my mission, to provide new experiences. I've always hoped people would see that. And also, I think this is maybe the final comment on the whole thing. I don't dwell on sales. Of course, I want my album to do good, but if it doesn't, I'm still always happy with the shit we put out, because I stayed true to what I was feeling at the time. You can't be scared doing this music shit. You got to go for it every single time. Now, look. You guys know my review of this record is very negative. Going back and listening to the album, I still don't like it very much. I still really do not. There are so many issues with the record for me. But now that Cudi, in brief, has put out his feelings on the record, has reacted to the negativity around the album a little bit, and still to this day shown quite a bit of pride in what he was trying to do on this project, I think I will try to expand a little bit some of my thoughts on the album as well. First thing I will say off the jump is that Kid Cudi, while I do not care for this record, he did not go out this decade being the worst example, I think, of a rapper trying to do a rock crossover with an album. I would say that, in a way, Logic's Supermarket is a lot worse and a lot less admirable than Speeding Bullet to Heaven really ever was. Even in all of its overly long, repetitive, and sometimes annoying glory, Speedin' Bullet to Heaven is actually, in my opinion, a much more respectable project and a genuine risk. And aesthetically, I think Cudi, even though I think his influences on this record were a little limited, I think that sonically he had way more attention to detail than Logic did on Supermarket. I think Cudi's lyrics are certainly a cut above Logic's lyrics on Supermarket too. I mean, while the chicken sandwiches line on this record is hilarious, Kid Cudi never wrote Lemon Drop. And that means a lot. So So that's the first thing I'll get out of the way. The second thing that I want to get out of the way is that the one thing Cudi did kind of get right on this record is, and I guess I'll leave it to two things, but the first thing is, again, the aesthetics of it. It does feel like a very raw, grungy, organic, and I guess a emotionally vulnerable experience. And the other thing that I guess I will communicate here is that the record does have that same level of emotional potency that you get out of most good Cudi projects. It's really just the songwriting and the execution that I think could have been so much better. I think all the demos on the back end are just unnecessary. One more time, I think the Beavis and Butthead skits are terrible and mostly make Cudi's attempt at reviving a lot of these noisy, aggressive, grungy sounds feel like not much more than just kind of a corny attempt at capturing some kind of nostalgia. I'm not really criticizing or questioning here Cudi's legitimate emotions going into these songs, but having the Beavis and Butthead skits on this project, making all of it feel like this is just me dabbling in some 90s vibes, makes it really difficult to take some of the darker and grungier aspects of this record as seriously as maybe Cudi intended us to take them. And again, while I think a lot of the songs are very repetitive, I don't think the instrumentals for the most part are very dynamic. I will say that vocally, I think Cudi does lay a lot of emotion out there, a lot of genuine emotion. And if that's, for the most part, what you look for in a Cudi record, I see no reason why you shouldn't at least appreciate some of what's going on with Speedin Bullet to Heaven. And finally, Cudi's last statements on this record over here, as it being an artist's job to take risks, so on and so forth. I mean, even with me not enjoying this record, I agree with the sentiment entirely. And while, yes, I gave this the negative review that I did, I still do respect Cudi for trying something that's new for him. Do I think that Speedin Bullet to Heaven is a revolutionary record for rock music, or is it new or novel for rock music in general? Not really, as a lot of the ideas presented have kind of been done before, but it's certainly new for Cudi, and he presented these ideas in a way that not exactly any artist obviously influencing this project had prior to him. So while my enjoyment of this record still is at a point where it's very low or non-existent, and I think it's totally fine to this day. If you still don't enjoy this project, you don't have to enjoy it. However, I thought I would come out here and say that I personally don't hate Cudi for doing this album. You know, if this was genuinely something that he felt like he needed to express, then he needed to express it and he should have done it. And I admire the fact that he is able to come on here and be honest and, again, say something like, I don't care about the album sales, or I don't dwell on them, and if an album doesn't sell well, at least I shared the musical experience that I wanted to share. Look, there are some artists whose catalogs maybe I've given much more praise than Cudi's, but there are some artists who I can think of in the 8 range, the 7 range of scores on their albums, and I'm not going to name names here, but across their entire catalog, while I may enjoy their work and it may be consistently good, maybe they're not as versatile. Maybe their catalog is not as dynamic or experimental or as adventurous as Cudi's. For all of his flops, for all of his low points, Kid Cudi's discography is really all over the place, and I personally do respect the fact that he does try to come into a new record with a different approach every time. So once more, in regards to Speedin Bullet to Heaven, I do appreciate that Cudi faithfully recaptured a classic 90s rock aesthetic here. I appreciate the risk. I appreciate the genuine emotions going into this record. Those are all reasons that even if you don't like it, you should show it some respect for being the major risk artistically that this album is. And even if everybody on the planet hates it, I find it totally admirable and also respectable that Kid Cudi stands by it and feels good about it and feels proud of what he did on this record. I think I will leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to let me know down in the comments, have your thoughts on Speedin Bullet to Heaven, have they changed at all? Does the record sound any different to you 4 or 5 years down the line? Has the record grown on you? Did you love it when it first came out and you still love it today? Let me know. You're the best. Anthony Fantano, Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Kid Cudi, Speedin Bullet to heaven, forever.